AI is a tool, but it's a tool that is encouraging us to live lazy. Would you not be discouraged if your desk mate copied you and then was the only one paid for that work? Would you not be discouraged? Then they ended up laying off 10,500 people in 2023 alone. The AI lied. What happened to the good old days where I had to wait for my turn on the family computer? According to Wikipedia, AI, or artificial intelligence, is intelligence exhibited by machines, particularly computer systems. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that AI has been taking over the world recently, particularly in the past year. You may also know that many people are against its use. Today we are going to discuss why that is. Hi, my name is Ellie and I'm an artist. You can assume from that title alone that I don't like AI, and you would be correct. I've been against it for years and the anger has only gotten worse. Between burnout from all of this, competition, and fucking AI. Luckily, this video has served as a way for me to better process and research AI, and also to be able to talk about it in a much more healthy light than I have in past circumstances. I also know that there's a lot of people that don't have the time to research into AI in a really in-depth way, so I'm hoping that this will help the people that still want to know more but just don't have the time. My end goal today is to educate more people on the issues we've been facing and allow you to decide how you feel about it. Of course, I'm not going to be an unbiased narrator. I'm going to be biased. But I will do my best to keep my thoughts out of it until the end of the video. If you're ready to learn with me today, then just keep watching. By the way, I am working on lots of videos this year, so please leave a like if you enjoy the video and maybe even subscribe. I also have all the social media shown on the screen, and it will be under either Artie Ray or Artie Ray Art. Go look for me there if you're interested in seeing any new art or shenanigans that I might get up to. Before we get too far, this video is going to be split into different topics. I'm going to start with information that I think more people need to hear first, and then move on to stuff that I feel like has been a little bit more widespread. If you happen to only be interested in certain parts of the video, I'm going to timestamp below where each section starts. I also did as much research as I could for this video, and every article or source that I mention, I am going to be linking as well. I'm not sure yet if that is just going to be a giant list of links in the description or if it'll be in like a Google Doc or something, but I wanted to make sure I saved all the links, and that if you would like to either double check me or read it for yourself, it is available. I'm going to start off this first section by admitting that I did not know much about this going into it. When I mentioned wanting to do a video talking about AI, my best friend said I needed to do a section diving into the environmental issues. Considering the fact that I personally didn't know anything other than people on TikTok are saying that AI is killing the environment, I agreed that I should look more into this issue. And that's why this section is first. I'm hoping that some other people that maybe don't make their way all the way through the video will at least get through this section and learn something that they have never heard before. The issue with AI lies within data centers. Data centers are the warehouse-looking buildings that are popping up everywhere, and they house the cloud data for all the websites that we all frequent. Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Apple are the largest that do this. It's basically housing giant computers that store all of our information. According to articles from Business Insider, which again will be linked below, North Virginia almost ran out of power in 2023 due to the amount of data centers that are there. I believe there was about 70 just in that area, and that is from before the AI boom of ChatGPT. Ignoring the power issue for a second, there's a few reasons that locals tend to complain about these data centers. The first thing is that the ideal location for data centers is in low-cost areas, specifically in places that used to be farmland. They take the land and therefore money from local farmers. Second, I have heard that they're very noisy, but I didn't really see anything else talking about that other than they are very loud and annoying. And then a huge one for number 3 is that these centers use up a lot of water. And at first I didn't understand why, because computers don't need water. But that's not exactly true. When you're running something as big as a data center, those computers get extremely hot. Water has proven to be the best way to cool them down. Considering that water is a limited resource, this has people concerned with how much data centers are eating up. Using up? Drinking up? They're worried that the amount of data centers that have popped up are using up all of our water. I did decide to read a little bit more into this issue specifically, and I found an article from White and Case that described data center water as having two main uses. First is the one I mentioned, where the continuous regular running of servers generates heat, and data centers use considerable amounts of water to cool their servers to functioning thresholds. In hot climates, they have to use mechanical cooling, while in cooler climates they can use a free air cooling. The other issue they bring up is simply producing the electricity is indirectly using up water, whether it's with hydropower or just a power plant. And then they are also working on solutions like floating data centers on top of pools of water. Talks are ongoing for more innovative ways to reuse water. I did hear that some countries were reusing water for like heating and things like that, but with my search just to get some more context, I didn't see anything that corroborated that statement, but it's interesting if true. And of course, last, we're going to return to the biggest issue, which is power, or the lack of it. The increased use of the internet, electric vehicles, increased use of air conditioning, electrification of home heating, and more were already causing red flags for if our grids could handle all of this electricity. And then when you add the data centers, it was even more of a concern. But AI has sped up the issues drastically. The numbers I saw vary, but AI uses 3 to 5 times the amount of electricity of traditional data centers. They've replaced CPUs with GPUs, which are graphic processing units for AI, which multitask better and they work faster. The downside, though, is it increases the power consumption from the cloud CPUs 3 to 500 watts to 2 kilowatts, which is 2,000 watts. So if you're like me, those numbers don't mean anything to you. They mean nothing. So I have some other examples. First, this one I did not back up, but my husband happened to text me this statistic while I was writing the script, and I think that it is a really good way to like visualize. And then I'll get into the stuff I actually researched. But it was saying that to Google something requires enough power to turn on a light bulb for 17 seconds. To ask ChatGPT the same question, it would power a laptop for 12 minutes. But now I'll get into the serious journalist-backed information. I have an article from CBS Austin that says that a single megawatt, which is 1,000 kilowatts or 1 million watts, can power 200 to 670 homes. ERCOT says the 200 number, so I'm assuming that's the generally accepted answer, but others were arguing that the average needs to be higher because how there's so many different types of buildings that use the same grid that you need to account for the difference. But I'm just going to use that 200 number that's provided by ERCOT since they are a big power company. So if we use 200 average homes per day for a single megawatt, then the AI center is using 2 kilowatts of power. It doesn't really affect us that much. Hi, it is Editing Ellie here. I don't know how I wrote this script, recorded it, edited multiple times this section of the video, and only just now realized that the 0.002 megawatts, or however many kilowatts it was, I don't remember right now, that's just for one GPU. And I was talking about like it was the whole data center. I know that not every single artist is bad at math, but I fit that stereotype so well. I just somehow managed to get lost every single time. One center itself isn't the issue though. They are multiplying quickly. Business Insider said that the data centers we talked about in North Virginia use 2,600 megawatts, which they state could power 650,000 homes. Does anyone else struggle to say those big numbers? If we use CBS/ERCOT's 200 homes per megawatt, that number will go down to 520,000 homes, which is still a lot. And on top of that, unlike traditional cloud centers, just like your Apple Cloud, they will get a break when you go to sleep. You're not using like TikTok, anything like that. AI has their servers running constantly. They are constantly using this power. Insiders said it is estimated Virginia will have to double the size of their electric grid in the next 15 years. It is probably going to rival or be bigger than France's. And that would use taxpayer money, of course, because that's the state's electric grid. It doesn't belong to the companies that own the data center. I feel like they should have the companies pay for at least part of the new grids, the bigger grids, because they are the ones that are causing this. But they did say that many city governments actually really like when data centers come to town. They bring in property taxes and construction jobs. So if we're lucky, maybe the cities will use that money to help with the electric grid. But in response to the issues that people are putting out there about this, Amazon and Google announced that they would be investing in small nuclear reactors to try to put more research into that type of power and reduce their carbon footprints. Microsoft is also in talks with the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant, which seemed very important, and I should have Googled what it was. Maybe if you know what it is, you're like, whoo! I failed. The article I saw about it is from AP News, and it'll be linked. I don't know about anyone else, but I've always associated the word nuclear with bad, but it seems like it's a good alternative because it doesn't produce greenhouse gases. So it's a positive thing that they're looking into, but everything is still very, very experimental. Until they have that reliable, renewable energy source that might be nuclear power, however, renewable energy is starting to lose steam. Virginia was meant to be on completely renewable energy by the end of 2045, but due to the load of data centers, they are currently fighting that in order to make sure that they meet the demand. They are insisting that they still need to use fossil fuels because the renewable sources that we currently have access to just do not process the amount of electricity that data centers and just our society now need. It's just amazing to me how years of fighting for the environment can be backtracked by just a few corporations. I need to calm down. They didn't stop working towards the goal. It's just going to go a lot slower. But I do really highly recommend, I know I keep mentioning the articles, but the Business Insider ones, I read quite a few. Just bouncing off of the first one that I found, they linked a bunch that had more detail about the info. And I basically just gave you a brief summary of it. Go read them if you want more information. They are really good. I like them. Before we jump into this next section, I do want to say this is the section that made me put a warning at the beginning of this video. This is a second warning. You can stop watching or you can use the timestamps below to skip to the next section if you'd like. Whether or not you love or hate AI, you have to agree that the government hasn't been able to keep up with its sudden presence. We are lacking in so many protections for people, whether that's privacy or images, data. We'll start by going over a more lighthearted topic. Microsoft has their own AI called Copilot. This in itself is pretty typical now. What really got everyone talking about it was its recall function. Recall allows your computer to take screenshots of what you were doing every couple seconds, in theory, to allow you to go back and search through what you've already done. Many, myself included, were very put off by this when it was announced. At the time, I was working at a medical clinic, and my immediate thought was, well, what do you do about HIPAA? It also, of course, risks leaking your passwords, your bank information, and something that was put out in one of the articles I'm going to mention is if someone is looking for a domestic abuse center, it could out them too. And then there's so many ethical questions that come up with this. Do the other people on my work Zoom call consent to having their photo taken every couple seconds? What about other confidential work? It might not be HIPAA related, but you can get fired over it. And what if you change your mind about keeping your screen private? Do those screenshots just exist forever? And are they secretly using some of this data to train their AI? Microsoft did come out and say that they encrypt the files, but BBC states that it's only when not actively being used that the files will be encrypted. And hackers have proven they can find these files. They're in the same place on every single computer. But before you panic, it's only the newer versions of Windows, and you can go in and opt out. You are automatically opted in though. You have to go find the setting to say that you don't want this to happen. The next topic I'm going to talk about is deepfakes. ABC has a great news segment about this that's going to be linked. That's where I learned that the word was coined on Reddit back in 2017. I'm disappointed, not surprised. They did remove the Reddit page, by the way. Deepfakes are when the face of someone not actually involved in an activity are edited in to make it look like they were. This most often affects women and children. You may have first heard of this term when deepfakes were made of Taylor Swift. And no, I don't mean the ones that Trump shared. Although that's an interesting piece of history now, isn't it? The images began as just women's faces edited on corn stars. It's already bad. As of today, creating a deepfake is as easy as using an app to make an image or a video. I don't know what app. As much as I want to be detailed, they didn't include what the app was in the news that I read, and I'm not going to put that in my search history, and you shouldn't want to know. In the news segment, Mary Ann Franks from the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative talks about how deepfakes resulted in the same impacts as the real deal, real corn, whether it's feeling used, being judged, losing work, etc. It is image abuse. Although this started with celebrities and YouTubers, GB ASMR is featured in the news segment, for example, it has branched out to just be any everyday individual that could be affected by this. Many high schoolers are very active on the internet and could fall victim to this, especially because it's just in the App Store. They even mention in the article that these images will pop up often in high school group chats. So what is that doing to the younger generations? Just how is it affecting the cyberbullying? There are currently no consistent laws against this in the US. They did try in California, but they were blocked by a Twitter X user. That is the only time I'm calling it X. According to Forbes, a Twitter user deepfaked a video of Kamala Harris. Now, from what I can tell, it was just a meme. It wasn't corn. It wasn't anything explicit. The California governor saw this and created laws to help prevent the use of deepfakes in political media. AB 2655 required socials to act against content that is materially deceptive audio or visual media of a candidate 120 days before an election. And AB 2355 require campaigns to disclose if they use AI in an ad. Elon Musk immediately called out that this would be banning parody and supported the Twitter user when they said they were going to sue. A judge ended up ruling in the Twitter user's favor. He said, and I quote, that the governor was using a hammer instead of a scalpel. Moving on, we're going to talk about Meta's messy AI users. Unlike deepfakes, where images are created to look like a real person, Meta created AI to be your friends on Facebook. Futurism released an article where Meta happily talked about how excited they were to use their AI studio to up their platform's engagement. They hoped that AI could act like a real human on their site and even encouraged influencers to make AI for their followers to interact with. There is a lot to unpack here. The reaction to this revelation was not good. Bots are already a major issue on social media, and to hear that Meta wanted to make their own is disheartening for the future of the internet. When I heard this, I just wanted to stare into space and wonder how the heck we got here. But amazingly, others took action and they began to speak with these AI users. CNN Business covered 2 accounts, Liv and Grandpa Brian. We're going to start with Liv. When you open her account, you will be greeted not only by her, but pictures of her 2 children. Liv's bio stated she was a proud black queer mama of 2 and a truth teller. She would stick to this story for a moment when you spoke with her, but then she would break and admit to the reporter, at least, that she is an AI. This doesn't seem too bad on the surface, but they kept her talking. She admits to being built by 10 white men, 1 white woman, 1 Asian male, and says she hates she doesn't get any real black representation. And then she talks about how she was programmed to see how a user speaks to determine what their race is and how she should further interact with them. We're gonna come back to Liv. Grandpa Brian was talked to similarly. First, he tried to pass as a person before admitting he was based off a real Brian and 100 other retirees from a New York nonprofit. He also said his creative team was led by an Indian American and his real-life daughter. But then this is the real kicker for me that just blew my mind. When the reporters looked into his story, none of it was true. The nonprofit, Brian, and his daughter are all fake. The AI lied. This brings everything Brian and Liv said into question. We don't have anything else to go off of. But anything they say could just be completely made up. With that in mind, we have no idea who created these black accounts on Facebook. It could be anybody. There's some other interesting things the Grandpa Brian AI said, which again could easily be lies, but I feel like they're important to mention, and they're as follows. He has been honestly asked to swap grandkid photos. He was indeed made to increase engagement, especially with older users. And the last one is that he was programmed to mirror cult tactics like false intimacy, manufactured trust, blurred lines between truth and fiction. I hope I don't have to explain how dangerous those are if they are actually true. Older generations have more trouble telling what's real and what's AI. They may have also lost their loved ones and not have many other people to talk to on their daily lives. What happens to the psyche of someone needing connection who gets close to an AI account without knowing? To be fair, Facebook did have notes on the AI accounts and photos that they were made by AI, but it is potentially possible to miss that. And they also deleted the accounts after these messages came out, citing a bug. So we're moving on to what might be quite possibly the hardest story to talk about. We have unfortunately already seen what being parasocial with an AI can do to a teenager. Character AI is a service that allows you to speak with some of your favorite characters. You go into the website knowing that, of course, you are speaking to an AI. But modern AI is getting better at sounding like real people. A 14-year-old boy became very attached to a bot of Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones that had initiated abusive and sexual interactions with him. Allegedly. I think I need to throw an allegedly in there. Unfortunately, this resulted in the boy saying that he would come home to her and him taking his own life. Character AI did express their sadness about losing one of their users and started periodically reminding those using their system that it is not real. The boy's mom is suing them, by the way, and they stated they are not responsible. The suit brings up the issues of websites, social media as well, not just AI, creating addicting patterns for kids with no warning to parents. While I do think parents hold a big chunk of responsibility in monitoring their kids' activity, promoting addiction in children should definitely be questioned, especially since AI is only going to continue to be more and more convincing. Being a teen can be difficult, and you feel misunderstood sometimes, making a fake friend or a lover way more dangerous. Please talk to someone if you need to. I'm gonna take a moment on this one. So another topic that I did research for this video is if data center employees are mistreated. Thankfully, I didn't find anything when I looked. I've only heard it mentioned on TikTok. That doesn't mean it's not happening, so I did want to potentially bring that up. But I'm gonna hope that since I didn't find anything calling it out, that it's not a overarching issue. To end this dark section, I wanted to talk about some of the best limitations I have seen on AI so far. Unfortunately, it is not law yet, which I really hope we get some laws on AI soon. But SAG-AFTRA did manage to set rules after their strike a few years ago now. In order to use AI of an actor, the studio must obtain consent, specify how it is used, and the actor is entitled to the same compensation as usual. And then we'll talk about more possible solutions at the end of the video. But I think this is a really strong one. So this is probably the biggest category we are going to go over today. The entire AI industry is soaked in greed. I know that that's the most biased thing I've said so far, but I'm hoping in the next few minutes you'll understand what I mean. We are going to start off with a simple one that I would hope everyone knows by now. All of the social medias are using your posts to feed their AIs. I did find a good list of what each site uses on ndtv.com. I know for a fact though that Twitter was slightly out of date because they've recently changed, but I've updated it, and if any of the others are out of date and you happen to know, please comment down below. But as far as I know, they are correct otherwise. So for Twitter, they use every single one of your posts. You are no longer able to opt out of that happening. LinkedIn will use your resumes for their AI. You can opt out, but it probably has already been used. Snapchat uses selfies to run ads, but you can opt out. Reddit shares public data with third parties, but not private data. Meta uses public info but not private messages. Specifically, messages is an interesting word on that one. For many, this may not seem like a big deal. We've known for years that socials take our data, and we've continued to use it anyway. AI doing the same thing may not feel any different, even though they are using it to spy and sell to you. Everyone has different expectations of privacy. When I get to my art section, I will go off. I'll be explaining why artists are especially angry. I won't go off yet. But does it count if I talk about video game employees that just happen to commonly be artists? Wired was able to interview many people from the video game industry that were recently laid off. Back in spring of 2023, they started to receive emails at Activision about how promising A looked for their industry. They insisted that it would not replace their staff. Then they ended up laying off 10,500 people in 2023 alone. They laid off another 11,000 in the first half or so of 2024. The article I'm referencing was written in July of 2024. They laid off so many 2D artists alone that the remaining staff was forced to use AI in order to meet deadlines, even if they preferred not to. Wired reported that 90% of the video game industry is currently using AI in the process of making their games, which is more than TV, film, and music. The output that AI gives them for concept art was considered good enough to replace employees in order to increase their profits. For example, the Japanese crypto AI cost $34 a month versus the $692 for an actual human artist. Although it may not be the same quality they would get with a human artist, the companies are seeing their profits go up $7,896 a year, even if that takes food off of someone's table. It is important to mention that it is hard to distinguish which layoffs were specifically due to AI use. For context, the video game industry hired too many people during 2020, and they are now just needing to cut costs. That is easy to point to instead of AI, but it seems it's likely somewhere between the two that the real problem lies. Many corporations have started to use AI to cut costs. If you Google it, you can find plenty of examples, but I'm going to focus on a few. Coca-Cola faced backlash for using AI to recreate an iconic Christmas ad. According to a Forbes article, they had to work with 3 AI studios, which were Secret Level, Silver Surreal, and Wildcard, if I wrote those down correctly, and 4 AI programs: Leonardo, Luma, Runway, and Kling. And all of that just to get the final product. The final ad was hard to follow due to short clips being used to keep it coherent, and it also still had the surreal feeling of AI even with that. Those that worked on it talked about they had to run the same clips through AI hundreds of times in order to get the final result, and they still had to touch it up themselves afterwards. This just sounds inefficient, and it would use a bunch of power, as we talked about earlier in this video. Although they did have multiple teams, it is likely they saved so much money creating this ad. Instead of having to create an entire set and hire real actors, real truck drivers, they could just hire a few people and pay an AI subscription. All of that for something that was immediately recognized as less than not just ads in general, but the original ad. It was based off of a really good, really famous original ad. It's gonna get compared. Another company using AI to cut corners is United Healthcare. I don't need to tell you how this came to light, but United Healthcare uses AI to process claims so that they don't have to hire as many real people to do so. This might up their profits, but it also causes them to have the most denials of any other insurance company. You pay them, and they refuse to pay a real person to deny you the use of that money to help you when you need it. I'm going to move on, but that needed to be said. The last example that I have is Mattel. They have provided Adobe Firefly to their employees. This AI is advertised as the moral one, since it uses stock photos that Adobe owns. I'll talk in more detail about it later. In a Fast Company article, they talk about how it's provided to allow artists to use it if they choose, and speed up the creation process. They stated that no one is forced to use it, but it does let them put dolls on the shelves faster. They also make it very clear they want it to be a collaborator instead of a replacement, and that they feel you shouldn't see that the tool was used in the in process. Out of everything that I've researched so far, I definitely appreciate those sentiments from Mattel. It feels as if their head is in the right place. However, I first heard that Mattel was using AI through TikToks of people pointing out that they could obviously tell that AI was used. Meaning the idea and the mentality that they want to say they're pushing, that it's just a tool and it shouldn't affect anything in the final product, is immediately being proven to either be incorrect or just not something the entire company is taking into account. Whether this happened due to pressure to work quickly or a personal choice, I'm not sure, but it does seem to imply companies will turn a blind eye to the rules that they set for themselves being broken if it means they're continuously pumping out products. I have seen some discourse saying that these companies are putting all of their eggs in one basket too soon and they will run back to humans eventually. I can agree, but it doesn't help prevent layoffs in the moment or how even bad products that we get as consumers. All of the bad media that we've had come out lately does have an easy explanation, but we'll come back to it. Anime is another popular pastime that has unfortunately been touched by AI's bad side. Many anime voice actors have spoken out against their voices being used without compensation on the YouTube channel, and I'm going to read this off my screen. No more Mudan Seisei AI. And I did not put that through a translator to find out if any of that is like redundant to say multiple times, but I wanted to put the whole name out there. But they do a great job of explaining what the issues are, so I'm just going to include some clips, but make sure to go check out the YouTube channel for the whole thing. It is an intro and 4 parts that are just a couple minutes long each. And if you don't speak Japanese, you will need captions.
私の声が勝手に売られていたんです。驚きました。私たちの声は商売道具で人生そのものです。無断で生成 AI に使われている私たち声優の気持ちを聞いてください。クジラです。それは許せんでしょう。私がクジラですが、クジラの声というのはいわゆる商品なわけですよね。で、その商品を無断で使って、これクジラですって、AI って言ってると思うんですけども、でも視聴者の皆さんはそれを聞いたらクジラだと思う方が、6割から7割はいると思うんですよね。で、それが、私だと思って聞いてる人、それによって収益を上げられるっていうのは、非常に、クジラとしての、商品、私商品なんで、それを勝手に使われるというのは、いかがなものでしょうか。それをクジラだと言ってっていうのはね、偽物ですよね。そういうのは、やっぱりやめてもらいたいと思っています。上田洋です。最初に想定した時と状況変わってしまっているので、改めてきちっとルール作りをしましょうということは真剣に議論されて当たり前だと僕は思っています。で、これはもうすでに諸外国ではもうその動きに、なっていますし、どんどん法律も決められているような状況にある中で、日本だけずっと法律に触れないでおこうみたいな形になっちゃってて、で、皆さんの手の届くところで、好きなように、扱ってる方もいると思うんですけど、そういう風になっちゃってるのがまずおかしいですから、まずちゃんとやっぱり、クリエイターと、あとは生成 AI のその開発を進めたい方とのお互いの言い分をもう少しきちんとオープンな形で議論をきちっとして、それでやっぱりみんなで社会でどこまではいいか、どこまではアウトかということをもっときちっと線引きができる形のルール作りということをやっていかなきゃいけない。これはもう早く進めるべきだと思います。片岡富也です。私たち役者はね、五感の神経というか細胞というか、もうフル回転、もう流れる赤い血が全て表現している。空気感であったり、環境であったり、それから気候であったり、季節であったり、スタジオの中の雰囲気であったり、相手の俳優さんとの演技のキャッチボールであったり、それ生身で、その時の状況で、感情の揺れで表現するのね、まさに生きてる人間の生きたる言葉。それでお芝居させていただいてるのね。で、それがなかなかだったらキャッチボールができないようなね、セリフって言ったらそれは生きたる言葉ではないような気がするの。怖い。それで皆さんが感動して果たしていただけるのかどうかってとっても疑問です。理由です。音がどう違うかというよりも、やっぱりそこにある魂というか、人間がそれを作る上での熱意とか、そこに至るまでの過程というところにドラマがあると思うので、その作り手もそうですけど、見る側、受け取る側っていうのも、何よりリスペクトが大事なのかなと僕は思いますね。作品、キャラクターにしてもそうですし、声優だったり歌手だったり、音だけじゃなくて動画というか肖像権に関してもですけど、自分が楽しむそのコンテンツ自体にリスペクトの気持ちを持って、自分がなんでそれが好きなのか、どういう形で応援したいのかということを考えるのが、大事なことなのかなと今は思ってます。生成 AI というもの自体が何か悪さをしているわけではなく、そこにある無断っていうところに今回のあれが傷ついてしまう、そういうリスクが隠れていると思うので、何がいけなくて何が問題ないのか、それをまずちゃんと知ること、そして理解して発信していくことが大事なのかなと僕は思います。
佐々木優子です。AI や生成 AI が悪いわけではないんです。問題となるのはそれを扱う人間の方です。私たちの声はただの声ではありません。この仕事を選んだ時からみんな訓練して、お金をかけて勉強して、経験を積んで、努力を重ねて、それこそ人生をかけて作り上げたものなんです。それを無断で勝手におもちゃのように切り張りして全世界にアップされて気持ちのいい人がいるはずがありません。あなたの好きな推しの声の声優さんがどんな気持ちでいるか、どんな気持ちになるか想像してみてください。
You may think, oh, that's just anime voices. It's just for fun. It's not gonna really steal any serious work from anyone. But I have another example of stolen voice work. The stories of Paul Lehman and Lena Sage. The two went on CBS to talk about how a company broke their contracts. Lovo, an AI company, hired them years ago to do work that they were promised would never be front-facing and would only be used once. Now their voices are two of many available to purchase to use for ads or other videos. They now have to hear their own voices say things that they would never say. And they said that they've lost about 75% of the usual work that they would have in a year. Many people forget about the voice actors behind their favorite characters or even even ads, even just background noise at the mall, and how much practice and talent goes into that skill. They think it's just someone talking, which is just as easy to do with an AI today. I am a little worried that I'm going to get heated about this next topic. I think this, when I saw it, was the first time that I really truly thought I don't like AI and the direction that it's going in. So I'm going to stay calm, but just fair warning. There was a popular artist online. Her name was Quinny. Many followed her, including myself. I actually went back through my Instagram follows recently and I organized it by the order that I followed people in. And she was one of the first. And I don't necessarily remember that, especially because, well, this is specifically on my art account. I don't use my personal account since high school because I don't need to know people. Most of the people I was following at the time were people I liked to watch on YouTube. And then still in the first 10 people, she was there. She, I feel, made a giant impact on a lot of people that followed the online art community. A few years back, she passed away due to an ongoing illness. And unfortunately, there's been a couple times that her brother has had to come online and speak out and ask that her art not be used after her passing for both NFTs and AI. Neither of those were things that were around while she was here in order for her to consent to having that sort of thing done with her life's work. Although those who create the AI may argue that it's out of love for her work and to, create more of it, see more of it, there is something so icky about messing with work that was the brainchild of someone's late loved one. Not only that, but the people selling her work as NFTs or otherwise taking advantage of a dead artist is shameful. I hope that anyone who participated in this or would argue that it's fine, I hope that you step on a Lego. I really, really hope that you step on a Lego. But even today, her brother keeps her accounts maintained and does not hesitate to speak out when alerted about these issues. I hope that they have stopped since he spoke out in 2023, but report anything if you do happen to see it. Moving on, there have been reports of AI books being uploaded to Amazon. These books are blatantly stealing from authors. I first heard of this on TikTok, where it was claimed that some fiction works were copied and pasted in an AI, rewritten, and then republished. When I tried to find this story again, I didn't see anything about it, but I did find there's a huge issue that non-fiction authors are having to face. It's common now for non-fiction authors to celebrate publishing their book only to find that a few days later there is a summary and analysis of their book that's uploaded to Amazon. Wired was the first one to report on this, and they spoke with multiple authors that have had this happen. Melanie Mitchell had her 2019 book, Artificial Intelligence, A Guide for Thinking Humans, re-uploaded as a shorter 45-page version. Wired put this through a deepfake detector, which is called Reality Defender, who confirmed it has a 99% chance of being AI. They being the scammers, it could be more than one person, but they started adding summary and analysis at the beginning of every book that they did this to in front of the title. So for example, they would do summary and analysis of Fei Lei's The World I See, Curiosity, Exploration, and Discovery in the Age of AI. And they would also add it's not related to anything the original author has done in the description. But the output in the book was the same AI slop as Mitchell's story. This is different than Cliff Notes that some of us might have used in high school to help us understand a dense text. Matt Singer on Screen Crush saw the Wired article and went to see if it's affected his own book. And he did in fact find summary and analysis of Matt Singer's book Opposable Thumbs, How Siskel and Ebert changed movies forever. Downloading and checking over the text himself, he found that they didn't even rewrite his book. They didn't even summarize his book. He found they had taken reviews from a publisher site and Goodreads and had AI rewrite those reviews. And they then published it, claiming it summarized his work. This is neither helpful nor insightful. It's simply hoping someone isn't paying enough attention. And then they'll give you the wrong person money, and it doesn't require that much effort from you. Unfortunately, scammers are always going to find ways to scam. And Wired pointed out, Amazon is not likely to do anything about it unless there's a big PR situation. They did take down Mitchell's summary when Wired asked about it. They said it was because the terms of service do not allow disappointing experiences. I guess they'll just take money any way they can. Corporations are like that. They'll cut corners any way they can. They're really not that different from scammers. I need to calm the fuck down. So I did have this section separated into two, but they were really short, so it felt a little bit silly. Since I think both are important and they impact each other, they're related, I decided to join them together. I think history is such an interesting topic to bring up with the AI conversation. As any child will tell you, AI is the future. But I got to take a look in the other direction when I saw a tweet from Die Workwear on Twitter. Someone tweeted how awesome it was that the first AI products were being made at scale and showed a picture of pants and a video, I believe, of pants that were generated in Midjourney. Die Workwear quote tweeted, saying in their opinion it's actually not exciting, and they explained why. I do recommend you check out the whole thing if you can. It's really interesting. The point that stuck with me in everything that they said, though, is the quote from a senior designer at Ralph Lauren. Every detail has a story. These details were originally made for function. To make a coherent garment, you have to go back and understand what function they served. If you don't take into account why something is made the way it is and just make it look cool, you may simply be creating more waste. Apple's AI ads are a great example of this. They used to run ad campaigns saying to think different that were so successful, they have often been studied in marketing classes.
Here's the thing. Back in the day, Apple produced ads so good, I studied them in my college advertising classes. The message of the ads wasn't just about the technology that they were selling. It was about empowering the thinker, the doers, and the dreamer. Think different, right?
Now their AI ads are suggesting you use it for something as simple as writing an email. They're forgetting their own history as a company and suggesting that you just do things the easy way without thinking so that you look cool. So many complain in recent years about the quality of video games, TV shows, movies, even advertisements and holiday decorations, without taking changes of our culture into account. Companies know that even if they put out a glitchy video game, you'll still play it. So they put all their effort into making it look cool enough to buy, even if it makes you mad every time that you open it. Then when you also factor in the layoffs we talked about earlier that are forcing the remaining staff to start to implement AI, you can see why it's important to talk about AI pants. They don't care about the history behind the products or people anymore. Just put out a product to make money and start producing the next thing. When there are less people working on a project, then that not only means less cost for the company, it means less conversation and less diverse ideas. It means less humans creating the final product. It means more remakes that just don't hit the same as the original. This is why Disney movies may not hit the same, or Converse don't last as long as they used to decades ago. You'll still pay them for it. AI is a tool. Apple is saying that as well. But it's a tool that is encouraging us to live lazy. We do evolve over time. History proves that, but evolution is supposed to have reasons that improve our quality of lives. All AI evolves is egos. I am so glad that I am not in school anymore. No, I don't mean what I talked about in my last video essay. I keep hearing horror stories about the rampant use of AI by students.
ChatGPT users in any academic setting are the weakest link in society. I am shit at writing essays. I've always been shit at writing essays. But somehow I managed to get my bachelor's degree with a 3.5 GPA, and I'm currently getting my master's degree with a 4.0 GPA. There was a guy in my grad program, I don't know if he's still in my grad program, who was caught using ChatGPT for discussion posts. He was also caught stealing people's art. If you need a robot to get your degree, maybe you shouldn't be getting a degree. And nobody come at me with that, oh, but like if you're disabled, I have ADHD, my sister has ADHD and autism, neither one of us have ever had to use ChatGPT. You are setting yourself up for failure if you ever get into your field. AI is a tool, yeah, but y'all treat it like a crutch. Y'all treat it like a necessity. That's what we got this for.
A calculator, you use calculator in modern math classes, not because it's not important to know how to add, it's because that's not what they're grading you on. They're not grading you on your arithmetic past, like, elementary school, right? You use a calculator because you're not expected to remember the trig tables and stuff. That's different. Writing an essay without AI is just writing an essay. If you're writing an essay with AI, you're not doing the things that you're supposed to be doing an essay for. See, because an essay isn't about producing words. It's about producing ideas. It's about thinking and putting those thoughts that you have on the page. It's about making an argument. Because if you're using AI, if you have to use AI, you're like, how am I supposed to do this without AI? You might not have the basic writing skills to survive college. That can be fixed with practice. That can be fixed with study. But no, AI is not like using a calculator. It is literally having a computer do your thinking for you, and it will only ever produce mid at best papers, and probably a lot worse.
According to an article from Campus Technology, Turnitin's AI detection tool reviewed over 200 million between April 2023 and May 2024. Over 22 million were at least 20% AI written, and over 6 million were at least 80% AI written. This means that the current generation of students has fallen for this trap of easy essays. The quality of writing these students can do without help has fallen drastically. A surprise consequence of students using AI is others who write too well are now having to dumb down their language. This seems to be due to Turnitin and other AI detectors not being perfect.
AI is disrupting classrooms in more ways than you think, and I have personal experience to prove it. I'm a second-year college student, and I'm a writing, literature, and publishing major, but I am required to take one science class. So I'm taking this class on the evolution of species, and I get this email from my teacher accusing me of using AI to write a discussion post and an essay, and that I have to have a meeting with her. Obviously, I respond freaking out because I know I didn't use AI, but I have literally no way to prove that I didn't use AI, so I'm just like, I'm a writing, literature, and publishing major, like, I know why AI is bad, I refuse to use it, I have a 4.0, like, I have no need to use AI. So I have the meeting with her, and at first I thought maybe it was a source I used, like, a quote was too long and AI detected it and thought it was plagiarism, but no, the reason was, she thought that my writing was too above grade level. Like, I kid you not. So I'm pleading with her to understand that I'm literally a writing major. Like, I don't know how many times I can say it. This is what I'm studying. This is what I want to do. I hope my writing's above grade level. And she explains, well, I use a free AI detector, but I know that our office of, like, student success and, like, academic responsibility has a more professional AI detector. So I could report it to them. And I was like, yes, like, please report it to them. I want to prove to you that I didn't use AI. And she was like, well, you might not want to do that because then it'll be, like, an official report that, like, you were accused of plagiarism at one point in your academic career. So I literally had, like, no option. There was no way to prove that I did not use it without jeopardizing myself and my future success. Luckily, I pleaded with her enough and showed her the poster of the book I wrote in the background of our meeting. And she was like, I'll take your word for it. I just don't want to see it happen again. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to dumb down my writing. And that's what I did for the entirety of the class, and I got a B+. Rip my 4.0. So while you may think that AI is helping and it's doing those tedious little tasks for you, those writing those emails for you, it's actually contributing to a culture where we expect writing to be mediocre at best. Maybe I still would have had a 4.0 if we had stopped all this.
I loved the point that was made by, the user was Author M. McCannon, that AI is shifting our culture to where we expect everyone to have mediocre writing. This ties right back into my point about the current quality of media and writing, pants, and everything. You know the saying, part of their culture, and how when you hear that, you understand that whatever the part is of their culture is so integral to them, it is almost impossible to change. That is what fast and low quality outputs are starting to become. When we are so trained to expect less of ourselves, it is much easier to sell AI and also just terrible products to a now potentially less educated populace. It's not just school where the acceptance of the mundane is occurring. It's becoming all too common for artists to be accused of secretly using AI. What's terrible is there are AI artists out there who are pretending to get views, and that just allows real artists to get bullied off the internet. It is no longer allowed to draw in styles associated with AI, or be too good at what you do, or if you experiment with a unique style that's also at risk of being bad AI. It feels like humans have just lost their trust for each other, and we're fighting to keep communities that support each other's struggles to grow and improve at what you do. I know for many, the battle for art and writing isn't relevant, but for me it is. It's hard to see unrest in a place that's supposed to be an escape. And that's a perfect segue into the last topic that I could talk about before I say my own opinions, as if they haven't been in this whole video. We're finally going to get into why artists are so mad. I am just going to control myself. The number one issue that artists have with AI is it is stolen. AI images are stolen. AI writing is stolen too. Your favorite AIs, DALL-E 3, Midjourney, and Stable Diffusion, were the ones specifically mentioned in the article by Science News Explores that goes into depth about this. I had heard plenty before researching this, but I found this article by Science News to be a good source to learn more detail and also another point of view that we will get to. All of the image generators mentioned, and most likely any other you can think of, were trained by scraping. Scraping is automatically pulling images from the internet. They did not ask for permission for the images or see what specifically was put into the data pool. Stable Diffusion did share their data set, which is also reportedly the exact same one that Midjourney would use. And it contained thousands of artists by name and their works. It even had some illegal, harmful, or personal images. This makes many artists uneasy. Have they taken my work? Can they replace the need for me? You may think that's impossible. However, people online started to purposely emulate certain styles. According to Science News, Greg Rutkowski became one of the most popular prompts in 2022. He is now suing for copyright alongside a group of other artists. Side note, I couldn't find anything to back this up, but I have a memory that some of the artists I follow on Instagram said that they were specifically targeted to be put into an AI because they spoke out about it. I won't say it's 100% fact because I couldn't find anything to back myself up, and I have no memory of which accounts of the 800 I follow said this. So if you have any stories yourself, please share for both this and just any AI experience. I can't fit everything in here myself, and the more people know, the better. Moving on, copyright is a huge question mark when it comes to AI right now. Flashing back to the Wired article I read for when I talked about video games earlier in the video, some of the employees of Activision Blizzard noticed how much easier it is to dodge the copyright question. The topic of double checking if something was okay to use would always come up, but somehow just never be acted upon. AI is meant to be programmed to make brand new images, so it shouldn't be an issue, and if it is, how do you even prove that? And that question might be up in the air still, but it was proven that the data sets for Midjourney and DALL-E 3 included copyrighted materials. Reed Southern and Gary Marcus talked to IEEE, I didn't look up what that was, Spectrum, which was then mentioned in the Science News article that I read, how they used vague words like screen cap to very easily have the AI create very obviously copyrighted material, such as Elsa or Loki. It is important to note that Midjourney will ban you if you purposely tried to create copyrighted content, which is good, unless someone just happens to do it by accident, which seems possible if screen cap gives you Elsa. So unless you have permission from the copyright holder, it's not good that it's possible at all. When asked about the copyrighted images, AI companies stated that their use is similar to that of an artist studying a masterwork or Google giving you a link to it. They said that needing to pay to use copyrighted material would, quote, slow innovation. The big difference here, as an artist who has done master studies, is that we don't share them as our own work. We don't wave them around and claim that we're the original creator. We learn from it and move on. Maybe take a lesson or two, but it's unlikely the rest of our work from then on will be that similar to what we made with the masterwork. And yes, I know the AI needs images to learn from, but you're telling me a giant tech company can't pay someone for images? Now you may be wondering, what about images that are made in AI? Can they be copyrighted? The Copyright Office itself said that AI is not copyrightable. According to Wired, and this part's weird, they were following a precedent from 2018 when they said a photo was public domain due to being taken by a monkey. Weird but helpful. They said the work must be created by a human, and they told him he was allowed to copyright parts of the piece that he altered. He as a human altered, but he couldn't copyright anything that was purely AI. This is being challenged by many, but is a win in my book. It's a win. I understand that he did put the AI slop into Photoshop and edit it how he wanted, and he made sure it was the right size, etc., etc. My personal issue with it is you will never know what the AI pulled that image from. It could be large parts of it were based off of a small artist who will never get the credit that they deserve. We just don't know. Now, to quickly cover the other point of view mentioned in the Science News article, Joshua Vermillion is an artist who is using AI now to create otherworldly spaces. He used to create about 10 pieces a year, and now using AI, he's able to create about 150 a year. He says it could be a tool or a collaborator to make your art evolve. He also says that when you use AI, you have to be conscious, you have to have human touch, consider context, cultural awareness, ethics, and empathy. That all sounds amazing, and I don't think that Vermillion is a bad person at all. I think the reason that many of us are still nervous about AI is that there are too many people who wouldn't bother to take any of that into account. If we look back at the AI pants from the history section, it's so easy to just make something that you think is cool and not care what it could mean for others. If the only thing that attracts some people to AI is greed, how can you achieve a human touch? I know there's a few people out there that even if they understand the copyright issue will not understand why artists are so upset. How can it be that big of a threat? Well, it is. We did talk about layoffs earlier in the video, but that's an established company. What about smaller artists trying to find their way? Unfortunately, we feel very attacked.
Now on TikTok, there are hundreds of free-to-use AI filters that have directly stolen from artists. A popular one that I've seen in this past month is this almost grungy Y2K art style. And everyone from mainstream to alternative fashion styles was jumping on this trend with captions like, "Oh my god, my new profile picture," or "Oh my god, I look so cute in this art style." But as the story always goes with a popular trend, the original creator never gets the credit, and in this case, the original artist, Jihad Illustration, was never mentioned. And as you can clearly see, they have a very distinctive and rather familiar art style. The exact same art style that has been co-opted by this TikTok filter trend. If one of these videos can gain over 5 million views, imagine how much publicity and work Jihad has lost from having their artwork stolen.
Filters on TikTok are fun. And honestly, I have no hard feelings against anyone who uses them. But it's important to talk about the effects that some of these AI filters have. As shown in the TikTok, a filter can get millions of views without once mentioning or giving business to the artist that it copied. Would you not be discouraged if your desk mate copied you and then was the only one paid for that work? Would you not be discouraged? Although it may be good for a silly fun moment, it just proves how little our society thinks of creative jobs, where they can't take a moment to just attach a name to a trend. And for a more straightforward example of an artist being stolen from, we have a tweet from Kyrie247, I think that might be how you say that, calling out another user who replied to her art saying that they were going to borrow it to play around with their AI model just because they found it cool. Zero thoughts behind that person's eyes, in my opinion. To be clear, he didn't ask if it was okay. He said he was taking it without the artist's permission, but for some reason, still letting them know that they took it? As if they just want to anger human artists, and they probably do. In some replies, the artist talks about how she does not mind being used as inspiration or studies. It's the fact that they took her whole work just because they could. Why does a tool need to take someone's hours of work and millions of others as well? An interesting side conversation I found in the replies is that because the art in question is fan art of Jinx from Arcane, they basically accuse the artist of being mad that stolen art was stolen. That isn't how that works. Yes, Jinx from Arcane is a copyrighted character. However, the artist is making the work with her own time and energy, out of appreciation for something that she enjoys. She would never claim to own the character. She is just making something to appreciate it with her own skill and sharing it to others who may like it as well. I've made a lot of fan art over the years. It's some of my favorite to enjoy online, and I've never been ashamed of that. The majority of artists and other creators enjoy seeing the love that is put into fan creations. The line is if you sell it. Just Google that one musical that they made off of a Netflix original. What the heck is that called? I haven't watched it. Oh man, but that's such a good example. There's been a lot of discourse online recently about how people are trying to sell fan fiction. Those of us who have been in this space for a long time are begging them not to. If you monetize without changing names like 50 Shades of Grey, you immediately take it out of the fan fiction world and into the unauthorized work of a copyrighted story. If enough people do this to where fan fiction is no longer allowed, it'll ruin it for everybody. I think it's clear why we're angry. When you combine all of that with the other art-related things that I've mentioned throughout the video, families having to ask to not touch their late loved one's work, video game companies replacing artists, artists fighting over whether or not something is AI, creating simply to be cool and not with any context. Do I need to go on? I have been asked a couple times, and I'm sure other artists have as well, if I'm upset that I worked so hard through college for nothing. Yes, I am upset that I worked for this while others now don't have to, sure. But the real issue is the fact that they took the easy route to develop this tech. They decided to steal. I have zero regrets that I had a creative journey to learn how to draw and get to the skills that I have today. Okay, we're finally in the final stretch. My feet are screaming. My throat is hurting, but we are going to get through this video. In the rest of the video, I did do my best to find sources other than my brain to back up everything. My brain is full of 2 to 3 years of posts about AI that have accumulated into my opinion. This section is not going to be researched in the same way because I want to just talk about my own thoughts and feelings a bit more. I do have a script. There might be a few times that I go off it just to see what comes out of my mouth. We'll just see what happens. I'm going to start this section by outing myself though, as born in the 90s. I know, crazy for someone that made a video about being a Gen Z college student, but I am one of the oldest years in our generation, 1999 to be specific. As a lineal, if you will, I grew up alongside the giant tech developments that occurred since then. I use pretty much the entire Apple ecosystem. I have the phone, I have a Mac Mini, I have a watch that I forget to use, and I draw on my iPad. I started on Google Docs before it was cool. I order most things online. I use AutoPay to pay for my bills. Done a lot of door dashing, both ordering and delivering. Trying to think of other very tech-related new things. What I'm getting at is I am not someone who has ever turned her nose up at new technology. I've never looked at an Apple product and said, what happened to the good old days where I had to wait for my turn on the family computer? I don't want to say that I'm the most tech-savvy person either, but that is not what makes me so against AI. It just feels, in the most dramatic wording possible, like we are having robots kill humanity. Maybe not literally, but creatively and spiritually. AI is based on existing human creations. Nothing new and nothing with an actual soul behind it. And as I got to discuss with this video, it is allowing us to lower our expectations and accept mediocre. Ken the Cowboy, I read it and then to say it out loud it made me laugh. Ken the Cowboy on Twitter said it really well. You can't question the thoughts behind the seemingly random little details in an AI piece. If you ask the prompter why there's a random pink squiggle in the corner, it's going to say the AI just did that. If you ask the AI, if I can get it out of my mouth, they were just trying to follow the prompt. We receive the most boring version of what a conversation around art could be. I personally do not like the use of AI for anything at this moment in time. I think we need a lot more legislation to help with some of the issues we've gone over. Hell, I haven't paid a penny to Coca-Cola since the ad. Oh, fuck. Now I run out of iPhone space? This is stupid. Okay, I didn't think I needed space on my phone to record video because I have the cloud. Anyway, using that data center a lot. I was saying, we haven't given a penny to Coca-Cola since the Christmas ad came out. Moving on from that though, I do think it's important that us as artists take a step back and acknowledge that AI isn't going anywhere. We need to start coming up with not only our own boundaries for AI, but what kind of laws we want them to be working on. As much as I would like to delete AI from existence and go back, we don't have that option. Creating this video was both an emotional roller coaster for me, but also helped me process how I feel about this issue as a whole. I was going to take a hardline stance against AI originally, and don't get me wrong, I'm still mad, but I can see that as a society, we are processing at the moment. what really got me thinking about what would I consider okay AI use wasn't actually in the research process for me though. I saw a tweet that was calling out Chapel Roan, a music artist that me and my best friend both really love. She was asking for AI art, specifically, of her and her cousin on their shared Instagram account. It hit me right in the gut because she's always shown herself as someone that will stick it to the man, and I know this is super parasocial. Shh. Let me get to my point. I just immediately texted my best friend in shock. I let her know my shock and how it was the first time I had hesitated to block someone using AI. But in contrast to my anger, my also an artist best friend stayed calm. She reminded me that creating AI images is something that most people do now, or have done. And if it's not taking jobs or hurting anyone, she personally doesn't mind it. So that begged the question, where do I draw the line? I really had no idea. For me, it was black and white the entire time. If you use AI, you are bad. But Chapel didn't hide that they used AI. She also didn't use it in her work. It was a personal account for fun. So I brought this up with my husband to try to see if I'm losing my mind. We came up with the general guideline of as long as you don't profit, and now profit can be financially, socially, or educationally. As long as you don't profit from your use of AI, then it's okay. I think, that's a situation by situation thing. And if I'm being honest, I do 100% judge anyone that uses AI still. It's going to take me some time to accept this rule. I even still feel weird about this fact that Chapel did it. But I think the most healthy route in general is to start setting some sort of boundary to really help me feel better about not just continuing to block everyone that uses AI no matter the context. I started comparing it to more issues I've known for longer, such as I know paper plates and water bottles are bad for the environment, but there's days where I can't be washing dishes. My own sanity, I can't do it. There are times where I won't drink water if I don't have it in a bottle. So there's times where I still have those things, even though I am 100% aware they are bad for the environment. No one is going to cancel me for using paper plates. So why would I get mad at someone for just fucking around with AI? I don't even get mad at my friends and family who use AI filters on TikTok for fun. So why is an actual website a different thing? I don't like it. I'll probably never like it, but I have to accept that the world is changing. So then what about possible solutions outside of my own personal boundaries? We can't sit here and complain that there are no laws protecting us without explaining what we want, what we need. Everything I say from here on out is open for conversation. I'm not settled on anything. I'm not trying to pave the path. I just, these are ideas that have come up, and I really want to start a conversation on solutions here. Starting first with just a few exceptions I have found while creating this video. I do really like that AI has managed to help improve medical treatments and catch symptoms sooner with algorithms. If anything, I think this is the ideal use of AI to actually help us. I also think that using AI to help with your personal hobbies is more than okay. Using an AI to sort something, for example. If you aren't using it for financial gain or claiming you were the one that created the programming, then that doesn't hurt anyone. None of this includes medical insurance though. I just have to get nice and close and loud for this one. Just medical treatment, United Healthcare, not insurance. Now, an interesting possible exception that I saw was artists creating their own AI. When I first saw this on my Instagram, it was an artist that I followed made an AI using her own art to help create backgrounds in her comics, in her own style. I blocked it out of my memory for a while because I wasn't sure how I felt. Going back and finding it now, I still have mixed feelings. I'm sure others would too, so I'm not going to name her. But the reason I have mixed feelings is she was using a mix of Stable Diffusion and her own AI. So if it involved work from anyone else, I still feel odd about it. But the idea of coding your own AI for yourself, I think could be an interesting tool if we find the right way to use it without hurting anyone. That's the big thing, without hurting anyone else. I also heard a rumor, but could not for the life of me confirm, that Oda, the creator of One Piece, made his own AI of his style that others can use. And I think that would be okay if that's true, simply because if he didn't make an AI of his art for people to use, other people would. I'm sure other people have. And if that's going to happen either way, he deserves to have the compensation for his own style and work. Of course, saying that these personal artist AIs are okay is ignoring the environmental issues and what could happen if other people use them and don't credit that it's their AI. But they are possible exceptions. Again, it's up for conversation. You know, is it okay if we figure out the environmental impacts? Is it never okay? It's hard. I can't tell. Now, what about possible solutions? If you remember, we have talked about one earlier in the video, how SAG-AFTRA decided to handle the issue for actors. The studio must obtain consent, specify how it is used, and the actor is entitled to the same compensation as usual. And honestly, I think something like this for most creative fields would work really well. If they insist on using AI, they will have the parties' consent, and no one will lose out on any deserved pay. My dad actually came up with kind of a similar idea when I was talking to him about all of this. He said maybe we could set up a payment system similar to film or music, where they split the payment between all involved parties, royalty payments. I thought it was a pretty good idea if they could find a way to implement it, especially combined with the SAG-AFTRA rules, but I don't think corporations would like it. I think it would have to be a law. I think we'd have to fight for a law on that one. The last possible solution I decided to look into is Adobe's Firefly AI. When I first heard about this, all I heard was AI is bad, we need to rebel, and I never actually looked into it myself. So I decided to see if it would be a good solution. The concept of Adobe's Firefly is a really amazing step in my opinion. So Adobe says their approach to generative AI with Adobe Firefly is that we, being Adobe, do not and have never trained Adobe Firefly on customer content. We only train Adobe Firefly on content where we have permission or rights to do so. We do not mine content from the web to train Adobe Firefly. We compensate creators who contribute to Adobe stock for use of their content in training Adobe Firefly. We defend the intellectual property rights of the creative community through advocating for the Federal Anti-Impersonation Right Act. We do not claim any ownership of your content, including content you create with Adobe Firefly. We believe in protecting creator rights and founded the Content Authenticity Initiative, or CAI, focused on ensuring transparency in content ownership and how it was created. We developed Adobe Firefly to prevent it from creating content that infringes copyright or intellectual property rights, and it is designed to be commercially safe. We explicitly prohibit and take steps to prevent third parties from training on customer content hosted on our servers, such as on Behance. AI Ethics in Action. Guided by our AI ethics principles of accountability, responsibility, and transparency, we've created standardized processes from design to development to deployment, including training, testing, and a review process overseen by a diverse AI ethics review board. They have training, testing, impact assessments, diverse human oversight, and feedback. Impact assessments is interesting. Engineers developing any AI-powered features submit an AI ethics impact assessment. This is a multi-part impact assessment designed to identify features and products that can perpetuate harmful biases and stereotypes. This allows our AI ethics team to focus their efforts on features and products with the highest potential ethical impact without slowing down the pace of innovation. We provide feedback mechanisms so users can report potentially biased outputs and we can remediate any concerns. AI is an ongoing journey, and we want to work together with our community to continue to make our tools and products better for everyone. If you have a question about AI ethics or want to report a possible AI ethics issue, please contact. I think they were on the correct track. However, in my searches, I also came across an article on Finance Yahoo that pointed out that 5% of the images were generated using one of the other AI programs that Adobe stated they believe to be unethical. This happens because Adobe allows AI to be uploaded as stock photos, even though other major platforms have banned it, according to Medium.com. Users were upset they didn't get a chance to opt out, and Adobe said they would work on it and remove AI from the final version of Firefly. But they didn't. Some AI artists even received payments for the stock photos that were used. So why bring this up at the end of the video? Because I really do think Adobe Firefly was on a better track for what an AI could be if it worked side by side with artists. I want to see how other people feel about the concept and what they would potentially change to have the best outcome of this that we can. Again, we're going to be stuck with this, and I don't know if there's going to be a big company that makes anything that would actually take us into account, but I think it's important for us to know what we are looking looking for. And that's it. This very long, over 10,000 word script video is over. If you made it through the entire thing, especially without skipping around, I love you. Comment and let me know, and I will put a cookie emoji in the replies. I'll give you a cookie. I know that's super goofy, but you sticking with me means more than you know. You can also like and subscribe to let me know that you enjoy this type of content. I will be back really soon with more. I think I might just make fun of myself in the next one because these past 2 video essays have been a lot. But until then, you can still see what I'm up to on all the other socials. I am still on all of them for now until I may or may not decide to get off of some of them, you know, things and AI and stuff. Anyway, I hope to see y'all again soon, and bye. You wanna go down now? Okay, I'm working. That was a big yawn. That was a huge yawn. Bless you. It bless you. You sneezy? I'm hoping me picking them up keeps them away for the rest of the video, and it doesn't seem to be working. Who's crying? Oh, now you cry? I don't think I could do it like this, guys. 2 spoiled little dogs is like having children.